Okay, hello, welcome. I'm your host, Grimlock, and welcome to my it's been a long time since I've updated my DDD deck. I did upload a profile like 2 years ago, uh, where I came like second place on my locals against full meta. DDD's got a lot of support from them, both directly and indirectly, to make this deck a lot stronger than it was before, to the point where some people say it's rogue, some people say it's tier 2. Personally, I think it's borderline. I think it sits on tier 2, but I think it is probably the lowest tier 2 deck, but it's still, in my opinion, the most fun deck of the format. It just allows for so much skill expression compared to all the other decks. Sword Soul's very, very simple, and other decks that are just as difficult as this deck, not worth playing, like Speedroid. As much as I love Earth Machine and it'll always be my favourite deck, it just doesn't have the power level that this deck has, whereas this can do everything Earth Machine does, but better. And the best part is, it went from being 3 and 4 card combos to 2 card combos, or if you're lucky enough to live in America where you can get jump promo cards, this deck actually has a 1 card combo, which I'll briefly talk about at the end. But yeah, let's get into the deck profile. So to start off, we have 3 of the new main deck monster, which is DD Griffin. So this card's absolutely insane. It has 4 effects, and you can use all 4 of them potentially in the same turn. So its scale effect is target any fiend monster. It doesn't have to be a DDD. So if you have like a generic fiend in your deck, or you've stolen opponents like, I don't know, let's say BA monster or something, you can boost that up so it destroys itself, and then boosts that monster by 500 attack for every dark contract on the field and in the graveyard. So if there's a super long grind game, this could potentially boost you by, I think I play 5 in the deck, so 2500 attack, which is, nothing to ignore. Its monster effect is really where it's crazy though. So if you have a DD monster, which includes another copy of itself on the field, you can summon him from your hand in defense. Then, if he's pendulum summoned, you can discard a DD card to draw, which is really, really good. Lets you dig into your side cards, games 2 and 3, but also allows you to put cards that you not would want in the graveyard, like if you had drawn Necro Slime or Typhon. It lets you get them in the graveyard while keeping resource management. So, and if it comes to it, you can even discard another copy of itself, because, well, you only need 1 in rotation. So if you have a second one in the graveyard, it doesn't really make much of a difference. And then its final effect is, if it's special summoned from the graveyard, which you might be thinking it's a pendulum monster, how's it going to go in the graveyard except with its own effect? Well, you actually go into a rank 4, and then you link off that rank 4, which sends it to the graveyard, because it's not considered on the field. But when it is summoned from the graveyard, it searches any DD card, and specifically card, not monster, which I will point out why that actually makes a difference when we get to it. So probably the card, the second card that went from kind of meh to really, really good with the addition of Griffin is Copernicus. Uh, so this is like Armageddon Knight, but for DD or Dark contracts, which is very important. The Dark contract with one of the new Dark contracts, because it actually has an effect when it goes to the graveyard. Um, so this and Griffin, the 2 card combo that you need for the deck to end on potentially 7 disruptions. Um, but yeah, he also has a pendulum scale effect where uh, one, which doesn't activate, which says if you would take effect damage from a spell card, you can destroy this card instead. Well, it doesn't say, it negates it and then negates the effect and then destroys itself. But yeah, really, really good. Its stats matter quite a lot as well for other cards in the deck. Next, the card that'll always be bread and butter in this deck, DD Savant Kepler. This card is just absolutely insane. Like, searches. So when it's normal or special summoned, you can either search for a dark contract or bounce another DD card on the field, which might not sound good, but sometimes you need to free up your scales. So you might want to summon the monster that's in your scales, or you might want to have different scales. So that's really, really useful, but that searches for all of your dark contracts. That's really powerful. and then its scale effect's not really that good. It used to be very important to keep in mind its scale effect, because if you had it lowers its scale by 2 every single turn, and then destroys everything on your side of the field that's not a DD within this, that's lower than its pendulum scale. So before you would have like Hagafibrax, you would have Crystal Wing, maybe a Cross Sheep. Obviously the Hagafibrax and that wouldn't be destroyed, but if you summon something off it, it could potentially be destroyed. And then for the last 3 of DD monster, we have Swell Slime. Still just as good, if not better than it was before. It's now no longer a combo. It's no longer a starter. It's now actually an extender, so that makes it even better. It lets you play through hand traps, through the Beerus, Impams, stuff like that. But for those of you that don't know, what it does is it lets you fusion summon by using itself and other materials in your hand. Then it can banish itself from the graveyard to special summon a DD monster from your hand, and you can use both of those effects in one turn. So that's it for the 3 ofs. And now into the 1 ofs, which this deck does play a lot of 1 of DDDs, so we'll go through them one at a time. Orthros, this went from one of the worst DD card, the worst of the playable ones, to actually one of the best. I was playing this at 2, but I decided to cut it down because it doesn't actually do anything by itself. So it's a scale 1, which, well not scale 1, a scale 3, which is important for part of the combo. And it says, while it's a scale, which is where you use both its effects. You can target 1 spell or trap card and 1 other DD card or dark contract and destroy them both. Well, destroy them. So if one leaves, the other one still gets destroyed. So the way this works is you can target itself as the spell and trap card, but not as the DD card. So you can actually target itself and then another monster or another DD card you control to destroy them both if you need to clear scales, part of the combo where you pop your own monster to get its effect. Then its other effect is, which never really came up, but it's actually super important now, because there's a lot of level 4s and it's a level 4 tuner monster, which is if you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon this from your hand, but you're locked into Fiends if it's special summoned in any way. So this also is part of the Baron de Fleur combo, because you swell slime, access to Griffin, and a monster that you can special summon off Swell Slime. So you Swell Slime send, let's say, Griffin and Swell Slime to grave, summon Genghis, normal this, special summon the other one in your hand, summon back Griffin with Genghis effect, add this, normal summon this, go into Baron, and then you've got 2 monsters on your field to go into your full combo. Next, the card that's it's just as important, but it's went down from a mandatory 3 of to you can play at 2 if you're playing Allure of Darkness. The same with Orthros, or if you're new to the deck, I'd recommend playing 2 of each. But this is just a 1 of for me. So while it's in a scale, it's a monster reborn by paying 1,000 if you special summon a DD monster, but your opponent takes half battle damage for the rest of the turn. And then if it's normal or special summoned, target a DD monster, specifically DDD, not DD. So that's basically only your extra deck monsters. Special summon it. And then you contribute another DD monster to target a monster on the field and banish it. The final 1 of Pendulum monster is Thomas, which I wasn't playing in my original list, but this card is so good now. There's a combo that you can do where instead of so your standard combo places Ragnarok and Orthros in your scales for the combo, but there's another combo you can do if you only open up a gate, which allows you to get 2 level 4s, which is instead of scaling those, you scale this and Griffin, and then you pendulum summon, normally just 1, and then you Griffin destroy itself, then Thomas add back Griffin summon itself, and then you can go into your rank 4 players from there, which is basically what the deck wants to do now. Before it was like Synchro and Link spam, and now it just wants to turbo into rank 4s. Basically, as soon as you can get a rank 4 plus the Link monster on the field, you're off to the races. That's it's kind of like hard to slow the deck down from there. Then we play Necro Slime and Vice Typhon. So I'm I'm talking about these together because they do practically the same thing. So as a normal summon effect that you're never going to use, because it's just overcomplicated and it can't actually resolve because I don't play another level 7. Um, both of these, you can banish them from. You can activate their effects in the graveyard, where they can fusion summon by banishing themselves in another card. So this one can summon any, and this one has to summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster, and it also has to be used on the same turn it's sent to the graveyard. But they do have different versatilities because obviously this can go into any fusion monster, but this gives you easy access to High King Genghis and uh, any of the other higher ones if you're playing them, if you're playing a more budget list. But yeah, so you play a 1-on-1. I was playing 2 Necro before, but this just makes getting into the bigger fusion monster a lot easier. Then finally, DD Lamia, again, this was a 3 of, it's nowhere near as important. It went from the central part of the deck where you saw this or you weren't playing to it's a decent extender if you don't have any, if you can't get 2 monsters on the field. It's good to have this to just send a Dark Contract or another DD from your hand to the graveyard, so it sets up your graveyard quite nicely. One thing to note is you can't send so what it does is if it's in your hand or grave, send a DD monster from your hand or field, a DD or Dark Contract from hand or field to the graveyard, to special summon it but banish it when it leaves the field. You can't send pendulum monsters or pendulum cards face up on the field, as you wouldn't be able to pay the cost of sending them specifically to the graveyard. So yeah, but it's okay. It's good to go with Oracle de Arc, which I wasn't playing before, which I'm now playing, because you can then use that to go into the Synchro 8 players. Okay, so now moving on to the rest of the monsters, which are just hand traps, which I think I only actually have to explain one of them. So Ash, it's just really good right now. Ogre is also really incredible right now. It lets you, it just stops the Brave Engine. I've actually used this against DPE when DPE was their only card on the field, so it didn't actually destroy anything, because it has to destroy from both sides. But yeah, it just stops the Brave Engine. It can stop Phantom Knights. Yeah. In Nibiru, it's just good if you're going second. This with any hand trap is really, really good. And then the final one is one-off copy of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, which it's actually pretty good this format, because even the synchro-based decks like Sword Soul and Virtual World are actually tending to go towards the Halka-Fibrex players into Auroradon. So it's really good for that. So it just helps you dig, lets you put your bricks back into your deck. Your one-off cards that you don't want to see in your opening hand, helps you dig for Griffin, Copernicus, Kepler, stuff like that. Also other hand traps. But the main reason that I play this is that it's a small world target, as the only conflictions it has is so this can turn any hand trap apart from Nibiru into any DD monster, because other than Typhon, which you don't want to be searching either, and Orthros, which you don't always want to be searching, but you can search it through. You can use hand traps instead of this, because Typhon's level 7 and Orthros has 18 defense. So for that, you could just go into Ogre or Ash Blossom. So yeah. Now for the spells, as that was the last of the monsters. So we'll go over the Dark Contracts first. So one thing to note is that all of the ones apart from the field all Dark Contracts apart from the field spell have the effect where they burn you for at least 1,000 in your standby phase. Some do 2,000, but I don't play any of them. I'm just playing the minimum, which is 3 Contract with the Gate, which is insane. It's a once per turn rotor, which I don't know any other deck that has a once per turn continuous rotor. If they don't have Ogre for this, you're just going to keep gaining advantage off of it. Dark Contract with the Swamp King. I wish most of these cards got holo reprints. So he works similar to Invocation, I guess. So during your main phase, fusion summon a Fiend monster from your extra deck. It's any Fiend fusion monster using hand or field. But if you're summoning a DD monster, I don't know why it says DD instead of DDD, because I don't think there's any DD fusion monsters. You can also banish from your graveyard as well, so it's really, really good. You don't have to lose any resources to fusion summon, and he stays on the field to be used as material for one of your extra deck monster effects. And then the newest Dark Contract with Pattern License. Uh, this card's just so good. You don't play it more than one because you only really need to resolve it once, which is if it's sent from anywhere to the graveyard, it adds a Dark Contract or a DD monster. Sorry, no, it's a DD monster or a DD Pendulum monster from your grave or extra deck face up back to your hand. So this can't actually target extra deck monsters, as it wouldn't be able to successfully return it back to the hand. But it does have a really good effect on field, which is it's a semi-floodgate, which is if your opponent summons an extra deck monster that's the same type as a DD extra deck monster you control, you can burn them for 1,000 and they can no longer summon that. So this is actually really good against Salamangrates. If you leave the Link monster on the field, they summon Bear Links, burn them for 1,000, they can't play. So it's just incredible for that. Doesn't always happen. You have to kind of change your combos because you lose out on the add back if you do that normally. But yeah, that's it for the contracts. Now for the search spells. We're playing 3 Small World. I think everyone knows what Small World does right now. 2 Perry Raise Map, however you pronounce that. So this ratio was thanks to Jack Dwajo, who I will probably put the link to him in the description, as this deck is kind of a hybrid between Pack's list and his. But Perry's map, basically start your main phase 1, add a monster with 0 attack from deck to hand, and then half your life points, and then it's negated unless you normal summon it. It's pretty good. I don't play at 3 because it does kind of conflict with certain things. So if your only 2 player starters are this and a Kepler, that doesn't do anything because you're either just adding another copy of Kepler, which is deck thing, which is okay, but half your life points to thin your deck by 1 isn't that good. Or if you add Copernicus, you have to summon the Copernicus because otherwise you're again just wasting 4,000 life points just to thin your deck out. And then finally, 1 for 1. So yeah, I think this ratio is really, really good. I tried just this. I tried Allure of Darkness. I tried just this, and I definitely think this ratio of 3, 2, 1 is just by far the best. It just opening multiple of these is really good, and if it comes down to it, if you don't actually need to summon the monster that you've got off this, you can always just add a hand trap. Use Small World to banish that hand trap to get into your players. So then the final main deck card is 1 Headhunt. This card's insane. So it's Widow Anchor, but it's Widow Anchor even better. So obviously you're trading off it being a quick play spell for it being a trap, but you're going first anyway, so it doesn't actually matter. So if you control a DD monster, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it till the end phase of the next turn. So it takes it for 2 turns. But its effects are negated and it can't declare an attack, so basically just like Widow Anchor. But then it has the even better bonus of if the monster that you've took is an extra deck monster or was summoned specifically from the extra deck, it's treated as a DDD monster, which is insane for your fusion players, for your link players, for pretty much everything. You can overlay it to make you the new boss monster. But yeah, that's it for the main deck. Now we'll move on to the side deck. So the side deck is completely different. It used to be as little DD monsters as possible, just to turbo into basically Crystal Wing and Halka Fibrax to go into other players. Well, I'm glad that the pure version doesn't have to play that, because Halka Fibrax is now triple the price it was when it was actually good during 2020. It's weird. It's like, I think that's just from it being like 2-year old at this point. Well, a decent reprint. It's only had the ulti reprint. But yeah, for the Link monsters, the only one we play is 3 Gilgamesh. So we play 3 because you can go through. It can be summoned more than once per turn, and you can very easily go through all 3 in one turn. Sometimes you go through 2. Sometimes you even just go through 1. If your hand's that good. So if he's special summoned at all, so he doesn't even have to be link summoned. If he's special summoned, you can set 2 skills from your deck directly onto your field, and then you take 1,000 and you're locked into DD monsters for the rest of the turn. So that effect's absolutely insane. There's so many decks that, so many pendulum decks that would love to have this. It's not as good as Electromite, but I'd honestly, for a pendulum deck, it's probably the best link monster after that. Um, it's so insane. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Just being able to set any, it's just getting any 2 cards from your deck and just placing them on your field essentially. Then if it is destroyed by card effect, or I don't know why, but specifically your opponent attacking. So if you crash it, it doesn't work. But if it gets destroyed that way, you get to summon a DD monster from your graveyard or your extra deck, which includes any fusion, XC, synchro monster, face up pendulum monster, anything like that. So I was playing Purple Doom Armageddon or whatever it's called, the fusion pendulum. I was summoning that because it's a huge body, and then on my opponent's turn I can pop and burn them. It's like a budget dragoon, but I decided to take that out. Onto the synchros, we just play 2, so I'll go over this one first. So this is Cursed King Siegfried. Pretty simple effect. Once per turn, during either player's turn, target a face-up spell or trap card on the field, either the field, negates effects till the next standby phase. And then, if he's destroyed by battle or card effect, he has a mandatory effect to gain 1,000 life points for each dark contract, because so you can sometimes gain 3,000 from him being destroyed. And then, the only other synchro we play is Baron de Fleur. I don't think I need to explain this. This card's absolutely insane, and as I said earlier, there is a combo. Although it is 3-card combo, it's not something you have to go out of your way. It's not 3 specific cards. It's kind of like one and one specific card and access to one specific card, which has like 4 different ways. So it's not too bad. But yeah. And also you can bring back your fusion monsters in your standby phase. Pop a card. You can pop your own cards to gain their floating effect and stuff. Then for the fusions, Undi Arc. I wasn't playing this before because I honestly found it really, really bad. But now I actually see the power of it, especially in time. So any effect damage you would take, you gain that instead. It's just that simple. It's also level 7, so with Lamia you can go into Curse King Siegfried. Then we play 2 Genghis and 1 Big Genghis, or Big Chungus as everyone calls him. So they both share the effect of, if a DD monster's special summoned, you can summon another DD from your graveyard, but he can also do it on normal summon as well. This guy on your turn on your turn only can negate any spell or trap, and this guy, if he's destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can add any dark contract from your graveyard back to your hand. But you play 2 of these. You do go through both in the combo because you can overlay to make one of the cards I'm about to go over. But yeah, they've all got decent stats. But yeah. And this is also used for Baron as well. So the card that you would go into, which I'll talk about as we're now going into the Xyzs, as that's all the fusions, is Big Caesar. So before, you would just play Big Caesar, and you would only make him if you had bricked and your only play was Necro Slime and Swell Slime to double fusion overlay into him. So he is a not once per turn, negate any spell or trap card or monster effect that includes the effect that would special summon a monster and then destroy it. And if you do destroy it, both itself and another DD monster gain 1,800 attack till the end of the turn. And if he goes from field to grave by any means, sent, destroyed, tributed, you can add a dark contract from deck to hand, which is really, really good. And you make that using the 2 Genghises. Some people play DD Dog to make that, but I honestly think DD Dog's super, super specific and not worth playing in the main deck. Then we have regular Caesar. So he can, during either player's turn, detach material, and at the end of the battle phase, special summon any DD monster. Oh, it's special summon as many monsters as possible that were destroyed this turn. But during the next standby, during the next standby, take 1,000 for each. Then if he's sent from field to grave, he also gets to search for DD. And then as part of the combo, what you'll be overlaying on top of him is King Tell. So what King Tell does is if you've taken effect damage, you can also it says here you can XC summon them by using a rank 4 DDD monster, which you'll be using King Caesar, which wasn't neither of these cards were played before because they were actually pretty bad. But they're now incredible and part of the combo, and sometimes you even want to end on them. So he's slightly weaker. He's got 100 less attack. But during either player's turn, if you've taken effect or battle damage this turn, oh sorry, it's just effect damage. Detach a material, target a monster on the field. It permanently loses 1,000 attack and defense, and if it does, you burn them for 1,000 damage, which is really good. And that's a soft once per turn. So if you have a way of looping this and putting material back on, then you can keep reducing and burning. And if you send from field to grave, you can add one DD or Dark Contract from your send from your deck to your grave. So this is really good for sending your Necroslimes, your Typhons, the field spell, stuff like that. Then the new boss monster of the deck. This card's absolutely insane. It puts Dingiasu to shame. Oh, that rhymed. But yeah. So you summon them just like Dingiasu on top of any DD monster. So, Headhunt, take an opponent's extra deck monster, slap this guy on top during your turn. So his pendulum effect is he can basically swap out your other. If you have another DD monster in your pendulum scale, he can swap it out for one on your field or in your graveyard, which is good for getting your Ragnaroks out and stuff like that. He's scale 10, which is really, really good. Excuse me. And then his monster effect is obviously you can summon him using the DDD. It also transfers materials if you're using a XC monster. And then you can only have one of them on the field, which is it does balance it out because otherwise you could steal and then put one. Yeah, if you're 2 level 4s, you could make yourself like an 8 material Zeus, which is just insane and broken, or you could make him with a lot of materials. Because his effect is once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, a monster card effect specifically, which is a ruling that not many people know. Is when a card says monster, it means in the main monster zone, or in your hand, in the graveyard, banished, in the deck, whatever. When it says monster card, it includes monsters in the pendulum zone. It also includes monsters that have effects while they're equipped to another monster, like union monsters. It also includes that one hero card, the one that treats the vision hero that treats itself as a trap card. If that uses its effect, it's still technically a monster card, because when it says, even if the monster's been treated as a spell or a trap, if it's physically, like, if you pick it up and walk away, if you have to write it as a monster in your deck list, then this can chain to it while it's on the field. That's the easiest way to understand it. But yeah, its effect is if a monster card on the field activates its effect, and this is once per chain, you can either detach 2 materials from it or destroy a Dark Contract on the field to attach that opponent's monster to it, which is absolutely insane, as you often end on 2 2 to 3 Dark Contracts. If you end on 2, that's 4 monsters that you can steal with this card, and it's absolutely insane. And then during the standby phase, you can place him in your pendulum zone. Oddly enough, I'm pretty sure he's the only extra deck pendulum monster, XE pendulum monster, that doesn't have the effect where he can be pendulum summoned if you would be able to pendulum summon like the same level as its rank. It doesn't have that, which makes sense because of how powerful this would be if you could just keep bringing it back, because it's also 3,000. It's got the same stats as Zeus. And speak of the devil, the final extra deck card is Zeus. Like I said, you can go 2 level 4s, then you go Caesar, King Tell, that guy. There you go. And then you would have, what would that be? 1, 2, 3, plus 2 more, 5 material Zeus. So you don't even have to go in the Machinax if you don't want to. But yeah. It's a very powerful card. It's won me games so many times. This Baron de Fleur just as powerful as all the DD cards, if not more sometimes. But yeah, so that's it for the main and extra deck. I'm gonna quickly go over the side deck. So I used this in a tournament the other week. This is the side deck I used. The locals was pretty. I don't know. It was more. It was mid-range to combo. There wasn't really anyone playing. I think there was one Flunderies player, but he was. I didn't actually get to play him, so my side deck ended up being really well. And that's it. This is the most where it's inspired by Pack, but I've changed some of the ratios from his list that he topped the YCS with, um, just to suit my playstyle a bit better. I don't really like playing 2 of hand traps. I think that's really, really bad. It worked out well for him, but it's not my cup of tea. So first of all, we are playing 3 Token Collector. Came in really clutch against Sword Soul. Well, I ended up losing 2 auto anyway, but I actually managed to last way more turns than I thought I would have with just this card. Also, this ultra rare, this super rare is very nice. I like it more than the ultra rare. Do need to pick up 2 more copies of that. But this has. If you have watched my old video, which I recommend if you want to go back then, or you want to play a more pure, it's a budget budget synchro version, and just update the cards. However, this was the only hand trap I main decked, mainly because it was the only hand trap I actually had a 3 at the time. I think I had like 2 Ash Blossoms, and when I came second at that locals, I rewarded myself by buying the 3rd Ash Blossom. So that's a pretty funny story. But yeah, everyone knows what he does. If your opponent summons a token, you say, no token, get rid of them. But he happens to be a level 4 fiend, so he's actually really, really good in this deck. You can still summon him even if, for whatever reason, you've Orthoros effect on the same turn. Then, playing the Gamma package. Honestly, best hand trap in the game right now for going second by far. I played at a OTS championship and ended up going 2-3 because I bricked on driver. However, I do feel like my list wasn't very optimal then. I think having more search cards is now the better way to go. I also had 2 small world targets which don't do. Realistically, Phantasma is the only thing that does anything by itself. But yeah, this is just really good. And yes, I have ordered 2 more gold rares because I do like how much it tilts people. Plus, I think the reason I did draw driver in that last game is because of that fun theory people like to have, where you draw your higher rarity cards more, and I have an ultra driver and rare gammas. Then 3 Lancia. So in that OTS tournament, I was maining it. I decided to side it because the decks that it's good against, it absolutely destroys them. The decks it's bad against, it's a dead card. Round 1 played against Striker, discarded it. So one thing I got taught, which I think is very, very good, if you feel like Lancia is good enough to side on main against a specific matchup, shotgun it straight away. Because if they're playing Rite of Aramesia, if they're playing, it kind of slows down Prank Kids a little bit. It completely stops Phantom Knights. It stops Sword Soul to an extent. But yeah, really good. Better in the side deck than in the main. Just because you need more powerful mains. Because I've used Pack's logic of you want to win game 1 because then your side deck just carries you through game 2 and 3. Then the only spell on the side deck is Call By. I just don't have the room to play it. My secret one is somewhere. I do need to find my secret one, and I'll probably swap it out for this. But yeah, it's Call By. Then Impam. So sorry for the mixed rarities and also mixed languages. The reason this card is in my side deck and not my main is for one simple reason, and that is you don't have the room for it. If you do your full and by don't have the room for it, I mean on the field. If you do your full combo, you end up with 2 scales, 2 dark contracts, and a headhunt. So there's literally nowhere to put this. So when I did have this or chalice in the main deck, I'd often end with it stuck in my hand because I couldn't do anything with it. So this is purely for going second, and you want to use it before you even start your turn, or if you think if your opponent's playing like DPE and stuff, you want to impam the DPE. Then the final side deck card, Dark Contract with Errors. This is what we play against Eldritch, against Altergeist, against Screw, any trap deck really. If you control a DD monster, which the fact that it's DD and not DDD is absolutely insane, because you can literally just normal summon, flip this, and what's Eldritch gonna do against it? Like this is so broken because this forces. I'm pretty sure this forces. Let me just double check the ruling. Just a second. It's also still a trap. Yes, so the Eldritch cards are still considered traps. So when you activate this, this will force them back into the spell trap zone because their effects are negated. They're no longer considered to be monsters, so they'll go. I believe they go back to the spell trap zone, as that's what happens when you activate Imperm in the same column as them. But yeah, it's really really good. If you activate this straight away, it can stop solemn strikes. Obviously, you can't chain a solemn strike, but you can. But you can negate it if they would activate it later on. So yeah, that's the main extra inside. So I'll show you a 2-card, a very simple. Well, this deck's. Bear in mind, this is still, in my opinion, the hardest deck ever made. But I will show you a 2-card combo, which you have to remember. This is if your opponent doesn't interrupt you. I'll show you this combo, and then I'll show you how to get in Uber under Fleur. So this is the combo. You want this or some way to get to both of these. So you'll normal summon Copernicus. You will send your Necro Slime to the graveyard. You'll summon your Griffin, and then you'll move my extra deck over here. You'll link summon into Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh effect, paying 1,000, will put Ragnarok and Orthros. You can't really see them there. Ragnarok and Orthros. So this is a skill. Ragnarok's skill 5, Orthros is 3, which means you can pendulum summon 4. So you'll pendulum summon both of these, and if you had a DD monster in hand or a Dark Contract, discard it for Griffin and draw a card. If not, you'll just continue as I'm doing here. So you'll overlay into Caesar. You'll then there's multiple different ways you can go here. This is the way I prefer it, as it actually kind of smoothly gets you into everything. Whereas I feel like this also allows you to play with just using one of the link monster. So you'll Orthros, targeting itself as the spell and trap, and this as the DD card. So you'll destroy them both. They'll go to grave, an extract, which puts your Griffin in grave to be summoned back later. From here, you'll trigger the effective wave King Caesar, which will add Dark Contract with the Swamp King specifically. You don't have to activate it yet, you can if you want, but you'll then activate Necro Slime's effect, so you'll banish itself, and you'll banish a Copernicus, which will then summon you into your Genghis, into your regular Genghis. You'll then overlay. I like to put this in the middle just because I can. Into Machinex. If you're going first, defense. If you're going second and you're gonna try and game, you put him in attack, obviously. Genghis effect will summon back the Caesar. Then on top of the Caesar, you will put the King Tail. And then since you've taken 1,000 from Gilgamesh's effect, you'll detach. If you're going first, again, you'll target himself or you'll target an opponent's monster if they have one. Burn them for 1,000. Then you'll activate your. Move everything up just a little now that we'll put more room. You'll activate your Swamp King. So your Swamp King will banish your Caesar. And your King Tell will go to the graveyard to go into your second copy of Flame King Genghis. At this point, you will trigger King Tell. King Tell will send, in this specific combo, will send Dark Contract with a pattern license, which will then add back Orthros to hand. You'll then overlay once more into High Caesar, which will then trigger the Ragnarok effect, so that will bring back your Griffin, and then you'll take 1000 damage. And since you did, you can do Chainlink 1 Griffin to add a DD card from deck to hand, since it was summoned from the extra deck, and then Orthros effect to summon itself since you took effect damage. So you do that. You can add the Headhunt, or you can add whatever else you need, and then you will Synchro Summon using Orthros and Griffin into Curse King Siegfried. So and then you've got your Headhunt. So just from those 2 cards, so you'll still have 3. So those 3 cards could be extenders. Those 3 cards could be hand traps, or they could just be starters for next turn. But through just those 2 cards, you have 2 uses of this. If one of your starters was Kepler instead of Copernicus or instead of Griffin, you would have also had a Dark Contract with the Gate here as well. So you would have had you can have potentially 4 here, 4 monster steals, spell and trap negate, 2 summon negates, and a steal. So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 interruptions from 2 cards. At the moment, it is only 6, but like I said, if you started with Kepler, the only difference would be that you would have a Kepler in your extra deck, and you would have Dark Contract with the Gate here, and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. So I'll just quickly put these away, and I'll show you what the combo would look like that gets you into Baron de Fleur. So the combo is, let's just do it for simplicity's sake. So it is Griffin, it is a Necro Slime, and then it's anything you can special summon. So let's go Copernicus here. Actually, we won't go Copernicus, we'll go, where's he at? We'll go Kepler. So I'm not going to do the full combo, as to be honest, even myself, I sometimes get things wrong and end up in a sticky situation. So again, you'll still have two blank cards here. So you'll have that on top. So what you're going to do is you're going to fusion summon, and you'll send it itself and Griffin to go into Genghis. Here what you're going to do is you'll banish your Swell Slime, summon Kepler, and then you can go Chainlink 1 Kepler to add a Dark Contract, Chainlink 2 Genghis to summon back the Griffin. So we'll summon him back, and then we'll add ourselves Dark Contract with the Gate, and then Griffin's effect will activate to add Orthros to our hand. So at this point, this is only 3 summons, and you've now got 4 cards in your hand still. So what you're going to do is you're going to normal summon Orthros, and then you're going to Synchro Summon into Baron de Fleur. Then you've got 2 monsters on the field, DD monsters. You haven't been locked in yet because you normal summoned Orthros, and this is where you would go into Gilgamesh, and then you can combo off from there, set your scales, and you have 2 level 4s. So you are off to the races from there. So yeah, this has been my updated DD guide. I honestly absolutely love this deck. I'd love to make more content, but I'd love to know what content people want me to make. If they want me to, I'm pretty good with rulings, if I do say so myself. And like I said, there are some really niche interactions that this deck has that a lot of decks don't, and I feel like some people do get confused. So I might do a couple of ruling videos if that's what people want. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me, motivates me to make more content. I have been struggling lately. I have been busy with work and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been Grimlock. You have been the best. Bye.